3, 2, 1.
What on earth are these little fellas? Right then, gather round everyone, because we need to talk about something rather fabulous and honestly, a little bit bonkers. Imagine you're digging in your garden, maybe looking for that trowel you lost last summer. Suddenly, you find a little clay person staring up at you with massive goggle-like eyes. You'd probably think you've had one too many glasses of Sauvignon Blanc, wouldn't you? Well, in Japan, people have been finding these strange little figures for ages. They're called Dogu, and honestly, they are just the most peculiar and wonderful things. They look like a cross between a tiny astronaut and a very surprised owl. And the best part, no one is entirely sure what they're for. It's a proper ancient mystery, wrapped in clay and baked thousands of years ago. Now, when I say ancient, I really mean it. These aren't from your granny's time, or even your great-great-granny's. We're talking about a period in Japanese history so old, it makes the pyramids look like brand new builds. These little statues have been hiding in the ground for thousands of years, just waiting for us to find them and go. Well, what's all this about then? They have these strange, exaggerated bodies, sometimes with big hips and chests, and nearly always with those incredible huge eyes. It's like they're wearing massive sunglasses, but way before sunglasses were even a twinkle in some fashion designer's eye. They are truly one of history's great head-scratchers, and you know how I love a bit of drama and intrigue. These aren't just a few odd bits of pottery either. Archaeologists have found tens of thousands of them all over Japan, from the chilly north to the sunny south, and they all have their own little personalities. Some are just heads, some are full bodies, and many of them have been found deliberately broken into pieces. It's all terribly mysterious, isn't it? It's like an ancient crime scene. But instead of a detective in a trench coat, we have archaeologists in sensible shoes trying to figure out what happened. Were they dolls for children? Were they sacred objects for some long-forgotten ritual? Or were they, and this is where it gets really juicy, something else entirely? The questions just keep piling up, so let's get our exploring hats on, shall we? We're going on a little journey back in time to meet the people who made these curious little creatures. We'll look at their strange designs, listen to what the clever experts have to say, and even dip our toes into some of the wilder theories out there. Because whether they were gods, toys, or little green men from outer space, the Dogū statues tell us a fascinating story. They remind us that the ancient world was a place full of imagination, creativity, and maybe, just maybe, a few secrets that are out of this world. It's a story that's part history, part art, and a whole lot of fabulous mystery. To understand our little Dogu friends, we need to hop into a time machine. Forget the swinging 60s or the roaring 20s. We're going way, way back. We are heading to Japan's Jomon period. Now, this wasn't just a long weekend. It lasted for over 10,000 years, starting from around 14,000 BC. To put that in perspective, that's before the Egyptians got busy with their pyramids, and before Stonehenge was even a thing. The people of the Jomon period were hunter-gatherers, which means they were incredibly resourceful. They lived off the land hunting animals, fishing in the rivers, and gathering nuts and plants. It was a tough life, I'm sure, but they were a creative bunch. They were famous for their pottery, which is actually where the name Jōmon comes from. It means cord-marked, because they used to press ropes and cords into the wet clay to create beautiful patterns. This wasn't just about making a simple pot to cook your dinner in. They were artists. They created elaborate flame-like vessels and, of course, our mysterious little Dogu figures. For a long time, people thought that you had to be a farmer to settle down and make fancy things like art. But the Jomon people proved them all wrong. They lived in settled villages with pit houses long before full-scale agriculture took over in Japan, showing that you can be both a hunter and a homebody with a flair for design. Life in a Jomon village would have been deeply connected to nature. The seasons would have dictated everything: when to hunt, when to fish, when to gather berries. Their world was filled with forests, mountains, and the sea, all teeming with life. And with that came a rich world of beliefs and spirituality. They didn't have science to explain why the seasons changed or why someone got sick, so they created their own explanations, full of spirits, gods, and magic. This is the world that gave birth to the Dogu. These figures weren't just random doodles in clay. They came from a deep well of cultural and spiritual ideas. They were a way for people to make sense of the world around them. Think about it. In a world without electric lights, the night sky must have been absolutely breathtaking. The forests would have been full of strange sounds, and life itself would have felt very fragile. In that context, creating a small, powerful figure you could hold in your hand makes a lot of sense. It's a way to feel a little bit of control in a big, unpredictable world. The Jomon people weren't just surviving, they were thriving, creating complex societies with rich artistic traditions, and the Dogu are perhaps the most personal and mysterious expression of their incredible long-lost culture. They are little windows into a world that is almost unimaginably distant from our own. Now let's get up close and personal with the Dogu themselves. You might think that once you've seen one, you've seen them all. Oh, you couldn't be more wrong. It's like a big eccentric family reunion where everyone has their own unique and slightly mad style. There are thousands of them, and they come in all sorts of shapes and sizes. Some are tiny, fitting neatly in the palm of your hand, while others are much larger and more commanding. They have been categorized by archaeologists into different types, depending on when and where they were made. You've got heart-shaped faces, horned owl types, and even some that look like they're wearing a little mounted on their heads. It's a real fashion parade of the ancient world. The most famous, the ones that get all the attention, are the goggle-eyed Dogu, or Shikoki Dogu. And honestly, they are the superstars of the collection. Their name literally means light-blocking goggle Dogu, because their eyes look exactly like the traditional snow goggles worn by the Inuit people to protect them from the blinding glare of the sun on snow. But these were found in Japan, not the Arctic. So what's that all about? These goggles give them such a strange otherworldly appearance. They aren't just simple circles, they have slits and patterns, making them look incredibly technical and futuristic. It's this feature that really makes your imagination run wild. What were they trying to show us with those eyes? Beyond the eyes, the bodies are just as fascinating. Many Dogu figures have very exaggerated female features. We're talking wide hips, big bottoms, and prominent chests. Some even appear to be pregnant, with swollen bellies. This has led many people to believe they were linked to fertility and childbirth, which would have been incredibly important in a society trying to grow and survive. But then, you get others that are more abstract, almost like little robots. They have strange patterns, etched all over their bodies, which could represent tattoos, clothing, or something else entirely. It's like the Jomon people were playing with form, creating a whole universe of different humanoid figures, none of them quite realistic. And here's another strange twist. A lot of these Dogu are found deliberately broken. It's not like they were just dropped by a clumsy Jōmon potter. Archaeologists often find them with the leg and arm, or the head snapped off. It seems to have been part of a ritual. Did they break them to release the spirit? Or maybe to cure an illness? If you had a bad leg, perhaps you'd break the leg off a Dogu and bury it, hoping it would take the pain away with it. It's a bit dramatic, isn't it? Smashing up your art for good luck. Whatever the reason, it adds another layer of delicious mystery to these already baffling little statues. They weren't just made to be looked at, they were made to be used. Alright, let's put on our serious faces and listen to the experts. The archaeologists, the ones with the little brushes and the big brains, have spent a lot of time thinking about our Dogu friends. They've come up with a few very sensible, very plausible ideas about what they were for. The most popular theory, and the one that makes a lot of sense, is that they were fertility symbols. As we've seen, many of them have very curvy female bodies. In a time when having children and ensuring the survival of your community was everything, it's no surprise they would create powerful symbols to represent motherhood and the life-giving power of women. They were like little goddesses of abundance. Another strong contender is the idea that Dogu were used for healing. This theory is supported by all those broken figures we talked about. The thinking goes like this. If you had an ache or an illness in a certain part of your body, you would transfer that ailment to the corresponding part of the Dogu. Then you'd break that part off and discard it, symbolically getting rid of the sickness. It's a bit like writing down your worries on a piece of paper and then burning it. It's a powerful act of hope. This would explain why we so rarely find a completely whole Dogu. They were meant to be broken. They were little clay scapegoats, taking on the pain of the people. Then there's the spiritual angle. The Dogu could have been important figures in religious rituals. Perhaps they were effigies of gods or nature spirits that the Jomon people worshipped. Or maybe they acted as intermediaries, little messengers between the human world and the spirit world. Some have suggested they could have been used by shamans, powerful spiritual leaders who would enter a trance to communicate with the gods. The strange, otherworldly appearance of the Dogu, especially the goggle-eyed ones, might represent a shaman in a transformed spiritual state, their huge eyes seeing into another dimension. It's a very dramatic thought, a shaman holding one of these figures in a flickering firelight. Finally, some scholars have proposed a more down-to-earth idea. Perhaps some of them were simply toys or educational tools for children. It's a sweet thought, isn't it? Little Jomon kids running around with their own little clay people. However, the fact that so many are found deliberately broken and in ritualistic context makes this less likely for most of them. But it's possible they had multiple uses. Maybe a Dogu started as a sacred object in a ritual, and then its broken pieces were given to children to play with. The truth is probably a mix of all these ideas. They were complex objects for a complex people, and their meaning might have changed over the thousands of years they were being made. Okay, we've heard what the sensible people in lab coats have to say. Now let's get to the really fun bit. Put your tinfoil hats on, because we're going into the world of ancient astronauts. For decades, some people have looked at the Dogu, particularly our goggle-eyed friends, and said, hang on a second, that's not a fertility goddess, that's an alien. And you have to admit, when you look at them, you can see why. The large, slit-like eyes look uncannily like the visors on a modern space helmet. The strange patterns on their bodies could be interpreted as the tubes and dials of a complex life support system. It's a wild idea, but it's certainly a captivating one. This theory was made famous in the 1960s and 70s by writers like Eric von Daniken, who wrote a little book called. The idea is that thousands of years ago, Earth was visited by intelligent beings from another planet. These ancient astronauts shared their knowledge with early humans, who saw them as gods. And in their attempts to depict these strange visitors, they created things like the Dogū statues. According to this theory, the Jomon people weren't just imagining things, they were sculpting what they actually saw. They were creating souvenirs of their first contact with extraterrestrial life. It's a story worthy of a Hollywood blockbuster, isn't it? Proponents of this theory point to all the details that don't seem to fit with the simple prehistoric culture. Why the massive heads? Why the helmet-like features? Some of the Dogu have very small mouths and noses, as if they were covered by some kind of breathing apparatus. One famous Dogu even seems to have a heart-shaped helmet with 3 strange spheres on top. It looks less like a person and more like a piece of advanced technology. The ancient astronaut theory provides a neat, if extraordinary, explanation for all these oddities. It suggests that the Jomon people weren't just creative, they were eyewitnesses to something truly out of this world. Of course, most archaeologists and historians roll their eyes so hard you can hear it. They argue that you can find strange art in any culture and that you don't need to bring aliens into it. They say we're just projecting our modern ideas about space travel onto ancient artifacts. After all, we live in an age of science fiction, so we see spacesuits everywhere. But the idea just won't go away. It's too exciting, and it taps into a deep human desire to believe that we're not alone in the universe. So while the experts stick to their theories about fertility and rituals, the little clay figures continue to stare out at us with their big goggle eyes, keeping their cosmic secret. So, why, after all this time, are we still so completely captivated by these little clay people? I think it's because they sit at the perfect crossroads of everything we find fascinating. History, art, mystery, and a little touch of the absurd. They are undeniably ancient, connecting us to a past that is almost impossible to comprehend. Holding a picture of a Dogu feels like holding a message in a bottle that has been floating on the sea of time for millennia. It's a tangible link to people who lived, loved, and dreamed in a world so different from our own. That connection to deep history is powerful and humbling, and it makes you feel like a part of a much bigger human story. Then there's the sheer artistic brilliance of them. These aren't crude, lumpy figures. They are stylish. They have flair. The designs are bold and confident with a strange abstract beauty that feels surprisingly modern. You could imagine seeing a giant Dogu sculpture in a contemporary art gallery, and it wouldn't look out of place at all. Their weird proportions and expressive faces make them incredibly memorable. They have personality. They refuse to be just boring historical artifacts. They demand your attention. They are proof that the desire to create beautiful, strange, and meaningful things is one of the oldest human impulses. They are, quite simply, fabulous works of art. And of course, there is the mystery. We humans are nosy creatures. We love a good puzzle we can't quite solve. The Dogu are one of the ultimate historical whodunits. Because the Jomon people left behind no written language, the statues can't speak for themselves. We are left to guess, to project our own ideas and fantasies onto them. Are they mothers? Are they shamans? Are they aliens? The fact that there is no single easy answer is what keeps us coming back. Each theory opens up a new way of looking at them, and a new way of imagining the world they came from. The mystery is the magic. This blend of science, myth, and speculation is irresistible in our modern age. We live in a time where we are sending rovers to Mars and peering into the farthest reaches of the universe with telescopes. The question of whether there is life beyond Earth is no longer just science fiction. It's a serious scientific inquiry. The Dogu, with their spacesuit-like features, have become unlikely mascots for this quest. They allow us to playfully mix our fascination with ancient human history with our curiosity about the future and the cosmos. They are ancient relics that feel perfectly at home in the 21st century, sparking debate and wonder wherever they appear. In Japan today, the Dogu are more than just museum pieces. They have been completely embraced by popular culture. You can find their goggle-eyed faces on everything from keychains and t-shirts to characters in video games and anime. They have become icons, instantly recognizable symbols of Japan's deep and mysterious past. This is something Japan does so brilliantly. It seamlessly blends its ancient traditions and mythologies with cutting-edge technology and modern pop culture. One minute, you're on a futuristic bullet train, and the next you're looking at a character on your phone that was inspired by a 5,000-year-old clay figure. The Dogu fit perfectly into this cultural landscape. This tells you something important about their power. They haven't been forgotten or locked away in dusty academic books. They are alive and well in the imagination of the people. They represent a kind of creative spirit that is both ancient and timeless. For some, they are a proud symbol of Japan's unique artistic heritage. For others, they are a fun and quirky link to a world of folklore and spirits. And for another group, they remain a tantalizing piece of evidence for a more cosmic history. This ability to be many things to many people is the secret to their enduring fame. They are not just clay, they are canvases for our imagination. So what's the final verdict? Were the Jomon people visited by aliens who wore fancy goggles and spacesuits? Or were they just incredibly creative people trying to make sense of the big, scary, beautiful world around them through art and ritual? Well, isn't it more fun not to know for sure? The truth is we will probably never have a definitive answer. There is no ancient manuscript waiting to be discovered that says, Diary of a Jomon potter, met a lovely chap from Venus today, decided to sculpt him. We are left with the objects themselves and our own ability to wonder. And in the end, that is the true gift of the Dogu. They make us ask big questions. They force us to think about our distant ancestors, not as simple primitive people, but as complex humans with rich inner lives, full of beliefs and creativity. They challenge our own perceptions of what is possible. Whether they represent ancient gods or ancient astronauts, they serve the same purpose for us today. They spark our curiosity. They remind us that the past is not a dead and buried thing, but a place of endless mystery and wonder, just waiting to be explored. And that, I think, is just marvelous.